I'm Brenna and I'm an illustrator and educator focusing on permaculture and sustainability. I also try to live what I preach. So my art is pen and watercolour. That means that I draw the image in pencil and then go over it in pen. And sometimes I'll then paint with watercolour straight onto the page. Other times I'll photocopy it onto heavier duty paper that takes the watercolour better and then hand paint with watercolour on top of that. I aim to use characters that people can relate to, that are really expressive, really lively, and I really focus on having bright colours and strong symbols that help to get the message across and also draw people in, make people want to look at my work. It's been shown that most people are visual learners and also that we retain information more easily if we can see it visually as opposed to hearing it or reading that information. So in my work, I pair up with authors or academics or NGOs, projects, organisations, and I try to make complex information more digestible, more accessible for people, and also more exciting, because if we're not having fun while we're doing this kind of stuff, then we'll be less likely to do it in the future. So I live in a tiny house. We call it the tea house because it has a Japanese-style roof. And it's situated on this broader property known as Meliadora. It's a permaculture demonstration site that was set up by David Holmgren, the co-originator of the permaculture concept, with his partner Sue Dennett in 1986. It's a 2.2 acre, 1 hectare property where we all chip in to grow most of our own food, milk goats, care for chooks, and also regenerate the land around us. In this book here, I've been keeping a nature journal. It's where I record things that are happening here at Meliadora, and I've been doing it at least once a month for over 2 years now. I draw and describe what's in season, what we've planted where, how much we're harvesting, all that sort of fun stuff. So it's really nice actually to look back 2 years ago and 1 year ago and see how different the seasons are. I didn't really have much experience with gardening up until my 20s. After university, went overseas and ended up being over in South America for 6 years, staying in places like this that accept volunteers. And so that was where I planted my first seed, picked my first vegetable, learned how to eat seasonally from the garden and the way that we as people can live at a different pace. It had a huge impact on me over those 6 years. And when I came back to Australia, I knocked on David and Sue's door at Meliadora and asked if I could continue my learning here. And so I've stepped up and now Dave calls me the lead gardener. I order in the seeds, I plant most of the vegetables, and it feels really good to have gained a level of knowledge where I can stand on my own 2 feet, where I can provide for these 3 households, of course with Dave and everybody else's help, but without having to ask too many silly questions. When I started out as an artist, the path before me was one of creating beautiful images and trying to get them hung up in galleries so that people could pay lots of money for them, and that's one path. But I guess I held back from that path because it was lacking meaning for me. And especially during my time overseas when I was volunteering a lot and learning about permaculture and the big changes happening in the world, I started to really struggle with being okay with just being an artist that makes nice things. It was seeming quite shallow. What's been so great for me about discovering illustration is that I've really put my creative energy and passion towards making the world a better place. What to do when climate change gets you down? Go out and be awed by nature. Plant a tree. Do something for someone. Grow food, build soil. When it all gets you down, remind yourself, down is the best place from which to get back up. So it's kind of like a game almost. Illustration's given me this way to process things that are otherwise quite heavy or scary and turn them around, make them funny, make them fun, make them accessible, give them a new life. We're living in a very scary time. We've got climate change happening, there's the bushfires, there's COVID, there's inequality. It can be a really heavy subject that people feel quite disempowered about. So one of my keen interests is showing people that there are options, that there are solutions, and also that if we act together, we can get the job done. Climate change isn't just about changing your light bulbs or driving an electric vehicle. It's also about storing carbon in the soil. It's about reducing your dependence on industrial agriculture, on the big systems out there, and actually taking back some of that power for yourself by growing your own salad in a pot on your balcony. It's also about talking to your kids about this stuff, talking to your family about this stuff. So that whole picture is something I'm really passionate about, and I feel so lucky that I've found art as an outlet for that. We're here in the decade of change. We're the ones that are making this happen. And there's never been more action in this space. And the solutions are out there. We just apply them to our circumstances. We're not all going to be perfect. And, to be honest, society makes it really hard to be perfect. So we don't strive for that. We just strive to do better than what we did the day before.